You're listening to the Ugly Truth Podcast with George and Christina Markoski, your weekly injection of science, insights, and myth-busting. For awesome info and trending content, go to theuglytruth.blog.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Ugly Truth. And I've got Leonie here. And Leonie is actually a happiness coach, is that correct?
Correct, yep.
Yep. And recently along my spiritual journey, if you looked at the last two podcasts, we did a big 2-hour session on the subtle art of not giving a F-U-C-K. So I want to keep this one without the expletives. And motivated with that, I wanted to talk to Leonie because it's someone that I know that's really spiritual. And spirituality and happiness, I suppose, have got a lot to do with each other. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm talking about. So I'll just, hello.
Hi, how are you, George?
Good, thanks.
Great.
Tell me a little bit about what you do.
Okay, well, there's a bit of a backstory to it. Yep. If you would like to hear a little bit about that first, and then we can get to how I arrived at what I'm doing now.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, since I was very young, I've always been interested in positive thinking. I always knew that there was something more out there in the world than the very simple way in which I'd been brought up. But it was only about 10 or 11 years ago when my son was in his teenage years, and I was the type of person back then who would be patient, and then I would just rage and fury if someone was testing my patience. Mm-hmm. So this particular day, he'd, as I believed, tested my patience, and I was doing the raging and the furying, and he turned around and he said to me, Leonie, he didn't ever call me mum in his later years, mm-hmm. You're not angry at me, you're just angry at all the crap that's going on in your life.
Wow.
And I said, no, I'm angry at you. And it was like this huge slap across my face.
Wow.
And I thought, he's absolutely right. And if I don't do something about this, I'm actually going to damage or destroy the most important relationship, apart from the one with myself, mm-hmm. in my entire life. So I thought, okay, what do I do? And the very next week, this little postcard arrived in my mailbox that said, learn to meditate with a Buddhist monk, mm-hmm. up at a centre 5 minutes away from where I live. So I saw that as a sign, and I went along and learnt to meditate, and they told me that I could eliminate anger from my life. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, that's a big one. But if that's what they're telling me I can do, I'm going to make that my intention. And within 2.5 years of studying Buddhism, not to be a Buddhist, mm-hmm. not to do the outward journey of Buddhism, which mm-hmm. was all the bowing and the prostrations and all the ceremonies, not for that, but the inward journey, mm-hmm. I eliminated anger from my life.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I know,
awesome.
It was a big journey.
What an amazing journey.
Big journey, yeah. So I looked at that and other things that I'd done in my life. I'd had the opportunity to study ontology, which is the science or the art of being.
Okay, ontology.
Ontology, yeah.
I'm going to look this up.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You'll love it. Very interesting subject.
I will, definitely.
Knowing the kinds of things that you read and study, this will be, I'd say, right up your alley. Mm-hmm. So, who are we being? So that was something that I'd had the privilege of learning about prior to studying the psychology of Buddhism. And I then thought to myself, you know what? I've worked with one of the meanest, nastiest, most unkind people on this entire planet, and I've actually broken through with that person.
Really? Okay, wow.
That was me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that person was me. Mm-hmm. And when I share that with people, they say, oh, I can't believe that.
That's what I was going to say. I can't believe that.
If
wow.
you had known me back then.
Wow, what a transformation.
I know. I mean, I wasn't like that all the time, of course, mm-hmm. but there were those moments, mm-hmm. particularly with those closest to me. Mm-hmm. You know, boyfriends, family, my son, for example, male partners.
Yep.
And so I thought, okay, if I've broken through with myself, I can help other people. And with that recognition or that acknowledgement, that's when I thought, I'm going to help other people, which brought me to happiness coaching.
Wow, fantastic. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Very exciting. I guess my journey started with NLP.
Yes.
And, you know,
how long ago was that?
So I became a neurolinguistic programmer, hypnotherapist back in '97.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so that's where I started. But I suppose my journey started before that, where I started getting into goals and positive thinking and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I came across, sorry to interrupt you there, came across NLP right back in the beginning of the Richard Bandler days. You know,
that would have
in
been late 70s.
The 70s, yeah.
Because that's when it first came out.
Yeah, and I can remember reading his book. There was no computer technology then to look at YouTube videos or things like that. So read the book and anyway, sorry, I interrupted your story, but yeah.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so it's fascinating how you got different paths that lead in a different way. And I guess I first started with positive thinking, my first thing on my spiritual journey and daily declarations, you know, standing in front of the mirror saying, yep, you're positive.
Those
you're
affirmations.
Affirmations, exactly. And I think to begin with, they're pretty good anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with affirmations to begin with.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you can't change the inside just by saying that you're positive.
Yeah.
You know, someone can look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm positive as long as they want. And it may not work. But I really feel that affirmations did make me more positive.
Yeah.
And I tried to do a positive spin on a lot of stuff.
And if you look at the neuroscience, they do work. They can work.
Yes.
But and there's information that you can read about why they work, how they work, but you have to be aware of how to actually incorporate them into daily life to actually make them work. But there is neuroscience experiments that show that yes, they do work.
Yeah, because I was when I was in Sydney after the Anthony Robbins course back in '95. Me and my friend we sat down, and what we did is we had a list of disempowering words and phrases, and we used to fine each other $1 for every time we said either expletive or I can't do this or anything negative about ourselves.
Amazing.
And after a year of both of us working together, because you need another person to help you with this. You can't do it on your own. It's a bit difficult because they've got to catch you out. Because catching yourself out, you don't notice.
Exactly.
A lot of your behaviour is unconscious anyway, if not all. I found that was amazing, huge change in the way I was thinking. You know what I mean?
And so after that year, you would have then been very aware of conversations you were having with people who weren't aware.
Completely aware.
And picking up their self-talk.
Yes. So, and it's never left me. So whenever I speak to someone, I can pick their self-talk straight away. And I can see if it's negative, positive. And it's hard to bite my tongue sometimes because in some situations, you know, because you know, someone will say, oh, I'm such a dickhead. And I feel like saying, don't call yourself a dickhead. Don't do that. Don't call yourself an idiot.
I know.
Right? And I try to tell them, you know, be kind to yourself. Don't talk to yourself that way.
Exactly.
You know? A lot of people's talk, even their not just self-talk, the way they speak, it's not good.
Can I give you a little example?
Of course you can, absolutely.
When I was working in the corporate world and had my own business and used to train people into the particular work that we were doing, and part of our work was remembering people's names, which I think is a very important thing to be able to do anyway for everybody in life.
Absolutely. I wish I was better at that. I'm
hopeless. George, there you just did it.
There you go.
There you just did it. So this girl said to me, let's call her Juliet, because that was actually her name.
That was pretty good. High five. I like it.
She said to me, I'm terrible at remembering names. And I said, Juliet, what are you telling yourself that for? And she said, no, I'm not telling myself, I'm telling you. And I said, no, Juliet, who's the very first person hearing it?
You are.
Exactly.
Totally.
So I was saying to her, Juliet, your brain is taking that in.
Yes.
And she said, no, I don't believe all of that. And I said, okay, give me 3 months, or give yourself 3 months. I want you to start right now and begin by saying, I'm fantastic at remembering names. Oh, but I'm not, Leonie. I'm hopeless at remembering names. Juliet, I don't want to hear that anymore. I want you to begin saying, I'm fantastic at remembering names and I'm getting better and better and better every day. Okay, I'll take that on. 3 months down the track, how's it going, Juliet? Do you know what? I've really changed. I'm fantastic at remembering names. She was reprogramming her brain instead of programming it with that old thinking of, I'm hopeless at remembering names.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow,
there's
amazing.
a real life
There you go.
example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It happened in the real world with me.
That is a really good example too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So self-talk. You were talking about self-talk.
So self-talk, yeah. So it's interesting, if you control self-talk, that's very powerful. And I guess the angle I went on was, when I first started, was through sales and goals.
Yeah.
So that's very egocentric.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, to start with, it's a good solid place to start with. But unfortunately, in the long journey, the ego is the enemy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent place to start with. And in sales, there's a lot of talk about what salespeople are really all about. But if you come across an authentic salesperson, they're the best kind of person in the world.
And
it's coming from the heart.
Exactly.
Yeah, and every salesperson can learn that.
Totally. And the thing is, because I used to run a marketing company and we used to do sales training and motivation, and what I found was, and this is what I taught people, is the more honest and authentic you are, the better you'll become.
Exactly.
Because it's only the really shit salespeople
Yeah.
that lie or deceive and take shortcuts. But unfortunately, those shortcuts is their actual own hamperment stops them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Exactly.
Because it's all about being real.
Yeah. And that does take time to come to terms with.
Yes, it does.
Really.
Because when I first started being positive, I used to, like, you know, people ring me and go, how are you? I go, unbelievable, great. I used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything was over the top. And it took me a while, you know, and a lot of people got bored of that. They're like, God, George, you're too full on. But I was very high energy, and, you know, even my answering machine had, congratulations, you've reached George, you know what I mean? Like, you won a prize. And,
when you rang me the other day to arrange this meeting, and I asked how you were, you said, I'm excellent. And I knew exactly what you meant, because that's always how I am as well.
Yeah, I was.
And it's not faking it anymore.
No, exactly.
You're there now.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
that practice got you there.
I guess part of the practice got me there.
Yeah.
I feel there's a few things that I just want to talk to you about today
Yep.
that sort of clicked in place that were missing in that other model.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the positiveness, I think daily declarations, being positive, telling yourself you're excellent, is a very good way to become positive and more powerful. But then what you're doing is you're building your ego.
Yep.
And
I see your point.
And
Yep.
through building your ego,
Got
and I
that.
didn't realise this is only recent that I found this out, funny enough, through building your ego, you're sort of self-sabotaging yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
And I only discovered this recently, and that's was my latest insight. So I suppose my first journey along was being positive in self-talk and having a positive mindset. And I feel that is an excellent start for anyone who isn't positive. And it's the best way to start. It's through brute force. You just keep telling yourself you're positive. Like I used to just look at a mirror and smile at myself, which would make me laugh and make you more positive and motivated. If there's something I didn't want to do that I had to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because because when I first started selling, I had to go door to door, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's so embarrassing. But you force yourself, and I was getting 100 rejections a day. But I feel like the rejections, because I interpreted them the right way, were building my ego and my positiveness, my strength. So every rejection built that, and then I guess I created this huge egotistical person out of that.
Right. Okay.
So my ego got very inflated, my confidence got very inflated because I pretended I was confident.
Yeah.
And then I forgot that I was pretending, and I was just super confident about everything.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay.
Yeah, that must have been a very well, once you reach that insight, very empowering.
Yeah.
But what was it like when you were actually in it?
What was it like when I was in it? Well, I was super confident, and when you're super confident, your life is better.
Yeah.
Because no matter what I saw, I'd say, yeah, I could do that easy.
Yeah.
That was my self-talk. So I felt like everything was easy. So therefore, when I tried it, I was better at it. You know what I mean? And everyone's like, oh, George, you're so good at everything. I'm like, yeah, I know. Which, looking back, I'm like, what an egotistical maniac. But being super confident came in very handy. So what I did is I used to test myself and push myself to the limit, put myself in uncomfortable situations out of my comfort zone to try to see what I could do. Yeah. So what I do is, back in those days, this is crazy.
When we say back in those days, when are we talking about?
So let's say
90s,
back in the 90s. So back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Back in those days, what I do
last
is...
century.
Last century, I reckon. Back in the 90s. So flying, right? What I'd do is I'd actually put in a fake name when I was flying to see if I can get on the plane.
Oh.
Because they grill you and they want ID and you got pressure because you've got a plane to catch in 1 hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got a business thing to go to and you've got the wrong name on there on purpose. I sabotaged myself because that way you've got no choice but to become really good at negotiating and handling a high pressure situation. And it worked. You know?
I like that. Wow. That's very creative thinking.
Yeah, so I used to put myself in situations like that on purpose.
Yeah.
To get my confidence higher and to sort of get out of my comfort zone.
Okay, so was that something that you made up yourself?
I made up myself. No, I made up myself.
Wow.
But what happened was, I suppose, it was sort of addictive.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in that situation.
What can I get away with next?
Yeah, and also putting yourself in because your heart's beating, you feel alive, it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of just going on a plane and catching a plane.
Yeah, so that surge of adrenaline is powering you along.
And then there was a Qantas Club, so you know, how do I get into a Qantas Club without having a membership?
Yeah.
I could afford a membership. That wasn't the thing. It was a matter of getting in and talking my way in.
Yeah.
And when the Qantas Club in the 90s was really easy to get into. You know what I mean? So I ran my office from there. And I wasn't even a member. Now I'm a lifetime member, so it doesn't matter. I've made up for it.
Yeah, that's good.
So, but so I went along that journey with the ego and stuff like that. And then I did NLP 97, and Tad James was teaching us. Yep. And I had lots of unresolved anger at the time, but I didn't realise.
Oh.
So I was in the audience, and Tad James was like saying, "Oh, who wants some help?" And he goes, "I think you need some help." And I'm thinking, "Yeah, I probably do, but you're the one that needs the help, not me." That's what I was thinking.
Wow.
I was angry at him. I don't even know why, because we're in trance, and I guess unresolved emotional issues were just coming out. And he sat me on stage, did timeline therapy, and really did some great work with me.
Because this was all the subconscious.
All the unconscious stuff coming out. Yeah, absolutely. And then what happened was, doing the NLP course completely transformed me. So before that, I was really struggling and pushing really, really hard to try to achieve things as hard as I could, and I couldn't get anywhere. Even though my confidence was growing, everything was a struggle, and everything was a battle.
And this is because of the inauthenticity around.
I think I had
working
unconscious,
from the ego?
unconscious blocks.
Okay.
Don't even know what they are.
Like in that realm of what is called self-limiting beliefs, that kind of thing?
Could have been self-limiting beliefs.
But
I don't know.
You don't know
All I know is after 2 weeks
Yeah.
of doing this, I changed the person and became a much better person.
Oh.
And I didn't even realise until a year later I was talking to people that I knew, and they're like, "George, you're so different. You're so awesome." I was thinking,
wasn't it awesome before?
That's exactly what I thought. And they go, "No, you weren't. This is what you used to be like." And I thought back and I thought,
what was I before then?
How embarrassing.
You were a big pain in the butt. What were you before? What did they think you were before?
Just very egomaniac, very belligerent.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All those adjectives that fit around egocentricity.
That's right, exactly. And when I look back, I thought, God, they're right. This is so embarrassing.
But they didn't tell you back then.
No, they were too scared.
You had to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but it was amazing knowing that I changed the unconscious, not consciously.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I didn't even know I changed, which is amazing. But the cause and effect thing was the one thing that I found hard to get to grips with. You know, because Tad said, you cause everything in your life.
Yeah.
And projection is perception.
Yep.
So therefore, everything around you is you.
Yep.
And he was in class saying, everything around you is you. And I was like, nah, what about, because he said, look, when you communicate, 100% of the communication is you. And I go, no, it's not. What if I'm communicating with someone that's too stupid to understand? That was my exact, I can't even believe I even said that. He goes, no, well, they're not too stupid. You're just not good enough to communicate.
Yeah.
And I kept rolling around that in my head, cause and effect, cause and effect. And I decided what I was going to do is believe it because it was a useful belief.
Yeah.
And then it took a while before I integrated. You know what I mean? What's your take on cause and belief and projection and perception?
I always refer back to my greatest teaching in that area, which I would have to say is the Buddhist psychology.
Yeah.
From which I learned that we are 100% responsible for everything that happens in our lives. And in its very simplest form, we create our world.
Yes.
In here.
Yep. Because the world is not real anyway.
Correct.
Because all we're doing is we've got a model of the world.
Yeah.
Of what we're seeing in our senses.
Yeah. It's all an illusion.
Yep.
And the illusion that we see is the one that we create in here. Like, how many people are watching us today? Hundreds? Thousands?
Yep.
However many?
Probably thousands.
Okay, so in this, out there where they are, and here, we would also, most people would say, this is just one world.
Yep.
But there are two people here,
Yes.
each with a different world that they're existing in.
Mm-hmm.
So there are actually two worlds here. And if there were 100 people here, there would be 100 different worlds here. Because every single world is created in here.
Okay, yes. So every single world is created in there. However, okay, let's say, for example, and I want to test these theories.
Sure.
So you got someone in a mental institution,
Yeah.
and he thinks he's Napoleon, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in his world, he's Napoleon. However, we know subjectively, objectively, he's not Napoleon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile that? Because even though he's creating his own world, it's not real. Because isn't there a reality and non-reality that you can create in your mind?
Well, he's creating in his mind that he is Napoleon externally.
Yes.
In the same way as we are creating in our minds that we are who we are externally.
But he's not, though.
But who's to say we are? And who's to say that the way that I think about the world, which may be quite different from the way you think about this little world we're existing in here right now with, who's to say that my version of what this world is the correct one compared with your version of what this world is? But I get you, I take your point. I totally take your point.
In regards to versions, we've got society as a group.
Yeah.
Who all agree as a group of agreement on what our world is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is glass.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah.
Now, if I took some drugs and thought it wasn't glass, it's still glass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
because of cultural agreement. Yes, exactly.
Well, no.
Because of agreement, that's glass.
Well, no. It is glass. So, okay, this is interesting. I believe it is glass. So, even though we're responsible for everything. Yeah. Right? So I really believe we are responsible for everything. We don't create everything entirely. We interpret everything, but we don't create it. That's what I'm thinking. And I want to discuss this.
Okay.
Because I didn't create this, but I'm interpreting it.
Yeah.
But a lot of things I create.
Yeah.
But the interpretation is a big part of it. A very big part of the creation.
Yeah.
Because I mean physicists, the Heisenberg uncertainty. Don't know if you know much about quantum physics. Okay, great. So with quantum physics a long time ago, they realised that until you observe something, it doesn't actually happen. However, and a lot of people took that as like, it doesn't exist unless humans are observing it consciously. However, that's false because humans have only been around 3 million years. So there's no one to observe it before then, and the planet was still here and everything was still here. So it's not quite like that. So it's more about measuring something than actually existing. Yeah. So that's an interpretation of something.
It's such a fascinating area
to
delve into. And going back to your mental patient thinking that he or she is Napoleon, I agree with you that the fact that that person thinks they're Napoleon is not our reality.
No. And Napoleon, exactly. It's not our reality. Yeah. It's their reality, but it's not...
But it's not our reality in agreement with who Napoleon is.
Yes. So
in
we
history.
I guess we as humans value having reality. You know what I mean? So it is valued. So if you say to someone, look, what I can do is I can give you $1 million and a beautiful meal and everything else like that. And what I say, if you say to that person, look, instead of that, what we're going to do is we're going to put some electrodes in your head, and you're not going to be able to tell the difference. You're going to be a millionaire. You're going to have any food you want, the best life you can. We're just going to leave you in this couch for the rest of your life, and you're going to live the most amazing life ever, and you won't know the difference. People still say, well, if I don't know the difference, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Because we've got a bias, and I think it's through evolution, that we do value reality to a certain degree, because reality has been useful in our evolution.
Yes.
Because when you think about it logically, what's the difference if you can't tell the difference? It's just our bias because of our evolution.
Exactly. And the conversation about reality is another very big one as well. Like, is my reality the same as your reality?
I reckon it probably is.
Well,
Because we live in a very similar society. Because society was different in the past.
Yeah.
I was listening to this interesting thing called Dan Carlin, who talks about history.
Yeah.
And in history, people loved violence. And people were a lot more violent than what they are now. Steve Pinker wrote a really amazing book, The Better Angels or something like that. But basically, he talks about how violence has decreased consistently through the centuries and thousands of years.
Okay.
And because of media, we feel like there's more violence. But if you look at the actual stats, it's amazing how low they are now. Because everyone's like, oh, well, back in the days before capitalism, there was no violence. Well, actually, hunter-gatherers, they're the most violent you could get. They kill each other all the time. So, which is fascinating. But if you look at only 300-400 years ago, well, let's say even earlier than that, like the gladiator games back in Rome, 2,000 years ago. People loved watching people get
the spectacle.
The spectacle. Whenever someone got tortured or hanged, there'd be a big crowd, and people would look forward to it. Like things that now would make us throw up, then actually gave people satisfaction. And it's like
we have football games now.
Yes, so it's a different reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
That society's created as a whole. Because you think to yourself, well, why do we rank differently now? Is because of our social norms. Because our social norms change what we laugh about, what we don't laugh about. Now you can't laugh at anything anyway, can you?
Sadly, but I still do.
I think you
Oh, no.
can't ban laughing about anything, really.
I guess you have to choose the good things to laugh about.
Yeah, because political correctness has gone a bit overboard, I think, personally. And if you ban laughter about anything or discussion of anything, then it may...
We just end up very grim.
That's right, exactly.
Grim, sad people.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's really interesting because you talked about the quantum level.
Yep.
And if I can come back to Buddhism.
Yes.
And I don't normally describe myself as a spiritual person, but I guess in terms of the fact spirituality versus religion, I'm not a religious person.
Yes.
At all. I was brought up as a Christian. I denounced that, although I still believe in the historical person Jesus. I think that if Christianity could latch onto the kindness and the type of person that Jesus was all about, it would be a wonderful religion.
Well, fortunately, Christianity mostly has done a lot of progression. You know what I mean? They've reformed themselves. I mean, if you look at back in the 1500s, most torture going on anywhere in the world was because the Christians torturing other Christians.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they weren't quite the same, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel like they've made a big step.
Yeah, they have.
Forwards.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're a spiritual person.
I choose.
Not a religious person.
Yeah, I guess.
So does that mean that do you believe there is some omnipresent being, omniscient being, or something like that?
That is such an interesting question, and that's probably a whole 2 hours on the couch with George by itself. But a short answer to that would be, I fluctuate on that. I come and go with that because I'm not sure, and I'm happy to say I'm not sure. Sometimes I feel that there's this wonderful power. Sometimes I feel it's inside me. Sometimes I feel maybe it is an entity. It's certainly not a man with a big white beard sitting up there in the sky. It's not that to me.
Yep.
And I love the fact that, I can't remember if it was Christopher Hitchens or Richard Dawkins said, you might as well believe in a China teapot.
Yes.
So,
or spaghetti monster.
Or a spaghetti monster. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So, coming back to Buddhism, I don't label myself a Buddhist. I follow what I would term a Buddhist way of life, the psychology of Buddhism, because Buddhism in its pure sense is only about the mind.
Yep.
It's about the psychology of the mind. Well, that's what psychology is, about the mind.
Yeah, but yes, okay.
And it's interesting if you read a history of the Buddha whom we refer to, the historical Buddha
I've
from
started reading a book on
2,500
Buddha,
years
funny
ago.
enough.
Yeah.
I just bought a book the other day.
Yep.
Because I read a short version, and that short version I read was amazing.
Yep.
I loved it. It was in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Duck.
Yep.
But you know, I'll give you the summary of what I read.
Yeah.
He was very rich
Yes,
and sheltered,
he was a prince,
and
yes.
he thought that was the cause of his pain.
Yep.
So then he went and suffered
Yep.
to relieve his pain, but he still had suffering.
Yes.
And that was to me, when I heard that, and then he discovered that people suffer because they're rich,
Yeah.
and other people that aren't rich suffer because they're not rich, and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that have got a family suffer because they've got a family, people without a family suffer because they haven't got one. To me, that was like really completely mind-blowing. And I can't believe that I didn't see it before. So I've read it in the past, and I didn't see it at all. I thought, this Buddha guy, what an idiot. He was rich and then he became poor.
Yeah.
I really did not get it. And last time I read it, I totally understood it on the inside and thought, I get it now. I totally get it. Because I didn't even, and this only happened last week,
Okay.
my spiritual awakening.
Wow.
So I haven't been really spiritual to this extent until last week.
I would say, consider this,
Yeah.
that possibly you have been, because you've been walking a pathway.
I've been walking the path, yes.
But last week, you went,
Totally. It was just like to the next level.
went to the next level.
And the funny thing is,
Aha moment.
Christina, my wife, she says I act differently now. So isn't it amazing?
It is.
I can't even see it, but it was the biggest jump I've ever had in my life.
That's
It
incredible.
was such an aha moment that when I read that book, I read till 4 a.m.
Yeah.
and really understood everything, because I've tried to, because with motivational speaking, I always tell people, you know, the wheel of life, and I've
Yes.
always had a spirituality to it.
Yes.
The reason being, I've added it because a lot of people like it.
Yeah.
Not that I really believed in it myself.
Okay.
I've tried to be spiritual, and I've like, you know, tried to do this. And I've tried to do all this sort of stuff, and I thought it was a load of crap. So I'm very science-based.
Yeah, same. I'm
really
a
into
scientist
science.
by degree.
And it wasn't until the science of Buddhism that it finally clicked.
There you go.
Right? So, and that aha moment was amazing. And when I realised that life is about suffering, that's the biggest aha moment in my life I've had. Like, it's amazing.
Life is suffering.
That's what it is.
That's the first of what is called the Buddha's Four Noble Truths. Life is suffering.
Okay, I'd like to hear the Four Noble Truths. It's fantastic. Because
Okay.
life is suffering.
Yeah, life is
I
suffering.
get that, and that's amazing.
Yeah. Suffering is caused by craving or aversion.
Okay, yep.
Either craving for something, desiring something that you think makes you happy, or not wanting something that you think doesn't make you happy.
Yep.
Okay? And this is because we think happiness is out here.
Yes.
Okay.
We think happiness is a state that we can attain, but
Correct.
it's not true.
No. And the third noble truth is that suffering can be overcome. And the fourth noble truth is the pathway,
Yep.
is the way to do that. And obviously meditation is a very important part of that, because when I studied Buddhism for 2.5 years, I took on the teachings, or the teaching of the Buddha. The teachings, I prefer the teachings because I saw them as, you know, lots of different things that I could learn. And when you have that teaching coming at you that you then have to sit and contemplate it. And I learned how to meditate, and it's within the meditation that I was able to contemplate it. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was able to eliminate anger from my life by learning about how anger has absolutely no place in life. We could solve our human problems if we could eliminate anger.
Of course we can. And anger's got nothing to do with anyone else but you.
Correct.
That's the beauty of it. And that's people don't get that. And
exactly. Like when I was saying about my son, you make me angry. Yep. No,
you're making yourself angry.
I choose, my angry mind arises. Yep. This is a Buddhist way of explaining it. My angry mind arises and I choose to react with it instead of stop, let's not do that. And eventually this angry mind just has to fade away, because scientifically the neurological pathways aren't getting the build-up. You know, they're not getting the reinforcement of anger. So eventually they just have to disintegrate and fade away. But getting back to the Buddha, and you're reading the story currently, have you got to the part where, well, he left the palace. He actually sneaked out of the palace, or snuck out, or whatever the word is, because he had been confined to the palace by his family, because they didn't want him. Yeah, they didn't want him to see all this sickness, old age, dying that was occurring out in the real world. But he went out there and he saw this, and it surprised him, and he realised then that first noble truth. And what is meant by a noble truth is that it's noble in that if you can take it on and understand it and accept it, then you will become, for the want of sounding spiritual, which it is, a pure thinking person, a noble person in your thinking. If you can begin to understand.
It's true, it's true. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because understanding that first noble truth is very, very important.
Yeah, now it's really interesting, because understanding it is key, but so challenging. When I first started studying Buddhism, I said to a friend of mine, very similar to this conversation, and the first noble truth is life is suffering. He said, no, that's bullshit. That's not true. That's, life is wonderful. And I thought, okay, do I have the time to explain what it's really meant?
I thought that too. So that's why Buddhism, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Because whenever I encountered it, my Mr. Positive, life is wonderful.
Yeah.
I couldn't accept. I thought, Buddha talking about suffering. Yeah. He's got it wrong.
Exactly.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, we don't need to suffer. We can hide suffering under the cushion.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I really thought we can just be positive, positive self-talk, positive life. Life is good. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
And it took me a long time to realise that, no, he was absolutely right, and people need to know this.
And I think it's the greatest challenge is getting over that, what it actually means. And I think, with your friends, if they ask you questions about that, then take the time to tell them what it means, if you feel they're ready. Not everybody's ready.
Some people aren't ready.
No.
But if people ask me, I'm happy to tell them, but I don't want to preach to people.
Exactly.
I don't want to be like a born-again Christian. I'm a born-again Buddhist. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And, there's that old saying, a lot knock at the door, but very few enter. So you've got to talk to those that want to enter and start walking that. Anyway, so life is suffering. So he was out there and he realised, my goodness, all of life is suffering. And he then decided to become an ascetic or an ascetic monk, to really go to the extreme of, and I think you would have probably read in the story about how he hardly began eating.
He was eating like a nut a day or something. It was crazy.
He went to an extreme. He went from the palace of riches and beauty to minimalist, almost nothing.
It's funny how you're just reminding me, because prior to my awakening, I did 96 hours of no food, no water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I've always thought meditation, it's a long time. It was my record so far. But I really feel that must have had some sort of effect to help me along that journey.
Yeah, there's been some kind of purity occur because of that. Yes?
Totally.
Is that what you mean?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Great.
Because it's funny that it wasn't a sort of slow learning of something. It was 1 minute I didn't know it, and next minute I totally inside me knew exactly what it meant.
Interesting.
It was just instant.
Yeah.
So it was it happened in one night completely.
Yeah.
So because I kept trying to learn about it, and I kept averting from it, thinking because I've been attracted to it, but I just thought sounds like a lot of bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I felt. That's what I really thought.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
Yeah. And it wasn't until recently where I just suddenly, wow, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that statement, like seeking a more positive experience, is in itself a negative experience.
Because it's craving.
That's right.
It's seeking that positive experience. It's craving.
And
that
accepting
has
a
to
negative
cause suffering.
And accepting a negative experience, it is itself a positive experience.
Yeah.
So acceptance is so important, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's what Siddhartha Gautama, that was his name, the Buddha's name, Prince Siddhartha, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. Anyway, that's what the Buddha realised, that the asceticism, the full way of not looking after himself wasn't working. So he found what is still termed, I think he termed it, but Buddhists call it these days, the middle way, the middle pathway, which is that pathway of taking care of yourself, not going without, not overindulging. That middle pathway. Are you up to the part in the story where he chose to sit under the tree?
Yes.
Okay, so that's when it all happened, and this is what I was going to talk about when I said about the quantum level. Are you aware that I do an annual Vipassana 10-day meditation? You've heard me talk about that.
I've heard you talk about it, and I've been interested in doing it.
Yeah, okay.
That was part of my journey, and we spoke about it because I wanted to do it recently, and I didn't get around to it.
Well, I've got my next one coming up week after next, so I do it every year. Last year I drove myself across the Nullarbor to do it, and that was wonderful.
What an awesome trip.
Yeah, it was an awesome trip. And it was, because to drive across the Nullarbor on your own on that way there gave me beautiful time for reflection and to look forward to and to quieten me down. Okay, so the Buddha said, I'm going to sit under the Bodhi tree, and I'm not going to move until I am enlightened.
Yep.
And he became enlightened, and I'm not going to tell you about Vipassana as such, because if anybody, my son did 2 Vipassana 10 days of silent meditation prior to me doing my first one.
Wow.
And I was really interested in this, but I was a bit afraid. How could you possibly sit for 10 days in meditation and not, you don't sit for you sit for 10 hours a day, but not all at the same time. But you have no form of communication. You don't speak, write, read, or acknowledge other people. So it's purely
inward.
Totally.
So it's almost imitating what the Buddha did.
It is.
Wow.
This is exactly what I'm getting to. So when I said to my son, tell me about your experience, and he said, no. Everybody's experience is completely different. Go and do it yourself. So I did.
Yep.
And it was the most wonderful thing. What I've learned, and this is what I can tell you about Vipassana, and it was the meditation that the Buddha was doing while he was sitting under that Bodhi tree. He realised that, and he was the first to, even though people were meditating, long time prior to so-called Buddhism starting, he was the first one to realise that it is the physical sensations in the body that cause the reactions that we have to what happens in the outside world. Now, do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yep.
Okay, so if somebody says something to you and it triggers a feeling and you react inappropriately, we would normally say, oh, you made me do that, but
Yes.
that's projection.
But we know that's projection.
Yeah, exactly.
So you made yourself do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
What the Buddha discovered, that just prior to that feeling coming up, there's a physical sensation that occurs. It's so subtle,
Yep.
but there's a physical sensation that occurs in the body that causes that to happen.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
and by sitting in meditation for as long as he did, he began to experience the physical sensations and not move through it,
Mm-hmm.
but to make himself sit there. Now,
Okay, so he was being, would you say, gotta get the word right. Can't believe I've lost it. Interesting. That's mindfulness, isn't it? Being in the moment, being present.
absolutely,
So
totally.
that's what you just described.
Yeah,
So having those physical sensations, then not reacting, not moving,
Yeah.
and just experiencing it.
yeah,
That's what mindfulness is, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to get my head around that.
Well, we would probably describe mindfulness today, like if you went out into the street and there was somebody who was aware of mindfulness, they would probably describe it as being in the moment.
Yep, being
But
present.
Being present, being right here, right now.
Yep.
Mindfulness.
Yep. Is that what Buddha was then?
Yes.
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 So, because when you're feeling those feelings
Yes.
and just not moving,
Yeah.
you're being totally present, can't you?
Correct.
Yep.
But what he got to was experiencing and sensing his body at the quantum level, at the subatomic level. Okay, so this is what I'll tell you about Vipassana, because if you are interested,
There goes my iPad. I'm very interested, as you know, I really want to do it.
if you are
I think I need to.
interested, you will do it, and you
Yes.
will have your own experience. But Vipassana, and everybody's experience is different.
Yep.
My experience, Vipassana can take you to the subatomic level in your body, so that you experience yourself not as a physical material body,
Mm-hmm.
but as the vibrating subatomic particles that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buddha called those subatomic particles kalapa, K-A-L-A-P-A. It's, I think it's a Pali word, or it may be a Sanskrit word, doesn't matter,
Mhm.
it's one of the two.
Okay.
So the Buddha was a subatomic scientist.
Wow, amazing.
quantum
Amazing that he had
scientist.
a word for something like that
Yeah,
back 2,500 years ago. 'Cause
Exactly.
That's what it was, wasn't it? About 2,500 years
It was
ago.
2,500 years
Yeah.
ago, yeah. I think 563 BC or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to give you, and I don't talk about this very often, but you're interested, and hopefully there will be other people who are interested, or they can say that's a complete load of hogwash, but
Yep.
this was my experience of that.
Mhm.
And I'll just put it very, very briefly in terms of I was very empowered in my very first Vipassana to experience myself at the subatomic level and to know myself as pure consciousness.
Wow.
I've had the experience. It's no longer theoretical.
That's an amazing experience. So
It was
that would probably be
mind-blowing.
life changing, wouldn't it?
Totally, George.
Totally.
Totally.
Yep. So how long did it take you to get there?
It was in my very first Vipassana, and it occurred on the 6th day, I think.
Wow. Because I've heard that the first few days can be hell. And
They
then it gets,
are,
and
but you know, you have a strong mind. You're an intelligent
Oh, look,
person.
I
If
think
you
I'll
go
enjoy
and do it, you'll go with the right intention.
Yep.
And that's the key, is to go knowing that after 10 days, on that morning of the 11th day, you're going to be looking at everything very differently, beautifully
I
differently.
really want to do this. You're motivating me, and I wanted to do it. And now, especially after my awakening last week,
Yeah.
I even really more want to do it. Because I've tried meditation over the
Yeah,
years, many
yeah,
times,
yeah.
and never really got into it. And
Well,
very.
it depends what do you think of as meditation?
Okay, well, I've done lots of different stuff.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I've done bilateral beats. I don't know if you heard much about that.
That's where
to train your brain.
Is that where you wear?
What you do,
earphones?
you
Yep.
wear earphones, and what
Yep.
happens is there's two beats.
Yep.
One on this side, one on that
Yep.
side, and apparently the phase difference
Yeah.
between the two beats gets you an alpha. It's a
I
bit of
think
a
I know that by a different name, something sync.
yes, holosync.
Holosync.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something similar to that.
Yeah.
I've tried that, and now I've been using the app Calm to do stuff. And every now and again when I meditate, I get into bliss.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the goal or whatever, but it does
Yeah.
happen sometimes naturally.
Yeah.
However, I'm really haven't had the discipline to do it, and I'd like
Yeah.
to, because I realise now that I've I feel a lot more spiritual. I
Yeah.
feel now that I'm ready for it. And before I was just really, you can't force yourself to meditate.
You can't.
You've got to just do it.
Yeah. Oh, you do, exactly. And I truly believe that meditation, to me, is a very, very simple thing. It can be as simple as, and this is the type of meditation that I do, simply focusing on my breath.
Yep.
Which, even though breathing occurs naturally, second by second, day by day, to ask somebody to actually focus on their breath and to get them to do it is a very challenging thing, because our mind, there are always thoughts arising in our mind.
Yep.
So if you're sitting there in meditation and you're focusing on your breath, you're actually focusing on the air going in and the air going out. But it might only be seconds before a thought comes into your mind. And then, a minute or two will go, oh my goodness, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breath, and you bring yourself back. In meditation, that's fine, because it's a pathway.
You wander and you come back.
Exactly. And you never beat yourself up about those thoughts arising, because it is said, and I think it might have been Deepak Chopra who said, we think something like 90,000 thoughts a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
And the interesting thing, or maybe I don't know whether it's interesting or challenging to get your head around, 80,000 of those thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday. So we're basically
just on repeat,
living our lives into our future, thinking, why isn't my life changing? Why isn't my life getting any better? But we're having all those thoughts from the past. So
of course. That makes sense.
So when you become aware of that, then you realise that meditation can be very important, because it actually helps you to calm your mind and come to the point where you're not thinking.
Okay.
Okay,
So I am doing a bit of this after all.
Great.
Because every
And
morning I have a cold shower.
Yeah.
And what I do is I'll squat down,
Yep.
turn on the cold water,
Yep.
and focus my breath.
Yeah, perfect.
I do that every morning.
Perfect.
So I didn't even realise I was
Yep.
doing some sort of meditation.
That's what
Because it helps, because that way I'm not focusing on the cold.
Yep.
And when I go to minus 110, that's really cold.
Yeah.
I just focus on my breath and just do a meditation. I suppose I didn't
That
know
is
I
a
was in it.
meditation.
Oh, there you go. It is.
And to me, it's the simplest and most beautiful form of meditation. It's the meditation that the Buddha started with in Vipassana. It's where you start in Vipassana, focusing on your breath. Because Vipassana is not a Buddhist thing. It can be done because every single person on earth breathes in and breathes out.
Yes.
It's not a religious thing, a spiritual thing, a cult thing.
It's a biological thing.
Exactly. So anyone can do it and not be afraid that they're stepping outside their faith or becoming a religious person or a spiritual person if they don't want to. They're simply focusing on their breath. And in Vipassana, you do that for the first few days, and then you go more deeply into the subatomic stuff. It's a process, and you learn that. What was I about to say then? You were talking about... Oh, I was going to say, so when those thoughts come up, you don't beat yourself up about that, because that's part of being human. We think. The key is to choose what we think, and also to not have the mind anxious with thoughts or stressed with thoughts, but to calm and relax the mind.
Is it almost slowing your thoughts down?
Yeah, it does. It does, because when you practice, and meditation is practice, It's something you actually have to do. Nobody can do it for you. You
Yep.
have to sit and do it. You have to make yourself do it until you actually, like I'm called to go and sit on the cushion now
Yep,
and meditate.
yep.
It's not, my
So
day
it's
is
almost
not
for you,
complete.
it's like having your sleep.
Yeah.
With most people, everyone's called to sleep every night.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
for you, meditation's
Yeah,
like
I'm-
that part of your day.
correct.
Yep.
I'm called
So do you think
to
it's
it.
better to meditate in the morning or the afternoons?
It probably depends. For me, I do both.
Okay.
But
excellent.
I really enjoy my evening meditation because the house is quiet, it's dark outside, I can hear the crickets, and you know, you're not supposed to be focusing on outside noises, you're going inwardly, but that occurs. And what I was going to say, when the thoughts arise, you have to think of them this way. And it's, I'm just trying to remember the little rhyme. The thoughts, the mind is like a clear blue sky. The thoughts are simply the clouds passing by. Okay, so the mind is this beautiful clear blue sky with nothing in it, empty. When a thought arises, it's like a little cloud floating by, and you let it go by. You don't think, oh, here I am thinking again, that's not my goal. You know, you just let it go.
Yep.
And then as time progresses and you practice your meditation more, and every day you become a meditator, you will find that your mind becomes calm. You will find that you can cope with whatever life throws at you. And you will, you said before, does it make you more relaxed and more calm?
Meditation's got, and part of the reason I wanted to get involved in meditation is the scientific studies. People that meditate live longer, less stress,
Yep.
look younger,
Yep.
healthier,
Yep.
more peaceful,
Yep.
and everything. So
Yep.
the benefits are amazing. And,
They are.
and when you look at a lot of people that are really successful, and not just successful money-wise, I'm talking about thought leaders and things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of them meditated.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite common. Not everyone, but very, very common.
Well, I would say authentic leaders who have integrity, you will probably find that meditation forms a part of their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what exactly.
Yeah.
And even if they didn't know it was meditation, they probably did it anyway.
Exactly.
That's the difference
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
So that's why I think meditation is very important. And the challenge is there's so many different ways to go about it.
Yeah.
And I'd really love to know what is the best way to do it, but everyone's got a different idea.
I
You know what
don't
mean?
think there's a best way. I think just as we find we have different preferences and choices for other ways of doing other things, we have to find what suits us. For me, I thought to myself, well, if the Buddha achieved enlightenment this way,
There you go.
that's
yeah.
good enough for me.
Yep.
And I'm going to do that. And I mean, look, I'm just
got
a
a very good point
beginner.
there.
I'm just a beginner.
The Buddha's, what he's discovered
Yeah.
is just so amazing.
It's the most, it's the most amazing, for me, the most amazing psychology, one of the most beautiful things we can learn. I mean, if you could imagine eliminating anger from your life and learning that being kind and helpful and generous and having gratitude and in your everyday life, I practice all of those things and my life sings every single day. And my life...
Beautiful the way you say it. Your life sings.
It does.
Beautiful.
It sings.
What a-
And my life flows.
That's fantastic.
And if I'm feeling in my mind that it's not flowing, I think, doesn't matter, don't react to that. Accept. You know how you were saying before about accepting the negative thought? How did
Yes.
you... Yeah.
I was saying that,
acceptance.
yes, so if something's negative, if you accept it, then in itself becomes positive.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So really the Buddha's middle way was about acceptance.
Yep.
If you haven't got something you want, don't crave it, accept that that's the way it is. If there's something happening that you don't want, don't, what was the word?
Avoid it.
Don't avoid it. Aversion, don't have aversion to it.
No, aversion is probably one of the biggest problems in society.
Yeah,
Because after reading this and getting enlightened, I realised that lots of people that have got addictions and have got problems,
yeah,
it's all about them trying to get away from pain.
Correct.
That's what it is.
Correct.
You don't become a drug addict if you're not trying to get away from pain.
Correct.
Or an alcoholic or a gambler or anything.
You're escaping
you're trying
from your pain. You're
but
trying
the problem
to.
is you're creating pain by trying to escape.
And this pain that you talk about, by covering it up with drugs or alcohol or whatever it is you're using to do that, food, shopping, they're all addictions, material goods. The pain actually remains lodged in the body. And this is the sensation that the Buddha was talking about.
Yes.
And this is what arises and disappears.
Okay. Through meditation.
Through Vipassana meditation.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. Because I guess accepting is the way to go.
Yeah.
And easier said than done. But I feel
easier said than done.
I feel like since I had that click, it's been very easy for me to accept everything, which has been amazing. So it's just no effort, and that's the key. And I didn't know how to get there because I tried to accept, but I couldn't because I was trying too hard. And I was trying to be mindful. I couldn't get there because I was trying to be mindful. Now I'm not trying, and I feel like I'm there.
You don't have to try. In fact, it's interesting if anybody ever, back when I was the old Juliet days training in the corporate world, if anybody, I really tried, and I said, doesn't cut it with me. There is no trying. There's either doing or not doing.
That's right. Try to pick up a pencil. How do you
do that?
You
know that, that's the one. Exactly. That's right. So, so you've come a long way in the past week in terms of...
It's amazing. So I was in the bath the other night with Christina. I said, Christina, what I want to do is I really want to write a book so I can help people understand this and heal the world. Because my biggest goal now is to help people